Bible, a sacred text filled with fantastic tales of an awesome supernatural force. But what if that force wasn't God? What if it was a UFO? In Ezekiel, what was that gleaming wheel within a wheel that descended on the prophet? In the Sodom and Gomorrah of Genesis, where did the devastating fire and brimstone come from? In Exodus, what was that presence in the sky that led Moses through the desert? Were these the actions of God? Or might these mysterious forces in the skies have been UFOs in the Bible? Throughout the Bible, mysterious aerial phenomena appear and alter the course of human history. To religious scholars, these stories are an infallible record of God's presence and godly events. But some modern-day researchers offer a different theory. Perhaps these stories really describe alien visitations.
Is it possible that extraterrestrials have been involved in human history for thousands of years? And if so, did they have contact with the biblical people? And as you look in the Bible, there are many reports of UFOs that contact biblical people. A chariot of fire that abducts Elijah and takes him off into the sky.
Elijah was one of the most revered Jewish prophets of his day. According to ufologists, the biblical account of his encounter with chariots of fire is a detailed description of what might be termed a UFO. This encounter took place as Elijah traveled along the Jordan River, accompanied by his successor, Elisha. Elijah knew his life was in danger because he had upset many powerful religious figures.
Elijah called out for God to help him. There was a young man with him, Elisha, and he didn't see it. But suddenly there were a number of chariots of fire around him.
Behold, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven.
In the Old Testament, Elisha tells a story about being caught up or swept away by a chariot of fire, or a conveyance that was glowing brightly hot.
According to this passage, Elijah was spirited up into the sky, never to be seen again by mortal man.
The concept of Elijah being taken up into a chariot of fire is an abduction.
Certainly modern UFOs are reported to take humans on board and take them away. So I think we've got, in modern UFO reports, something that could have functioned very well to carry Elijah into the sky.
If we were to take what Elisha was describing and compare it to events of people being taken aboard unidentified flying objects or flying saucers, it may very well be the same type of event occurring in those days compared to what they could compare it to.
What we think of as a chariot and what we think of as a flying saucer may seem worlds apart, but some contend that perhaps they aren't so different after all.
Chariots is actually a word that means some form of conveyance, and back in those days, the closest thing they could compare these moving objects to was a chariot. So therefore, they were a conveyance that was glowing or bright or had a fiery appearance. and that was probably the closest association they could make to these conveyances in the sky.
Some speculate that the traditional interpretation of biblical passages is hampered, not only by the ancients' lack of technical references, but also by inaccuracies in the Bible's translation into English by the court of King James, which was completed in 1611.
The English that was used in the court of England in the 17th century was different than the English that was used by the common people, and for a specific purpose. Because the court of England wanted to keep themselves separated from the commoners.
To better understand the original meaning of biblical texts, researchers refer to Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. This book, completed in 1890, is an alphabetical index of every word used in the Bible, listing each occurrence of that word and the context in which it is used. By doing this, some researchers believe they have discovered another connection between Elijah's story and UFOs. In the King James Version, Elijah tells of being whisked up into heaven. But some now believe that perhaps he wasn't talking about the godly realm.
When it comes to the word heaven, in the court of King James, the word heaven literally meant sky. So in the hundreds of places in the Bible that heaven is used, it actually means sky. It is never described as a place that you go to for a particular reward.